This is the almost original Rite of Spring, choreographed by Vaslav Nijinsky, produced by Sergei Diaghilev, and performed with Diaghilev's company, the Ballet Russes. The actual original version was performed in 1913. However, when the October Revolution occurred in Russia in 1917, many of the dancers featured in the rite, such as the famous Michael Fokine, had to return home to their respective cities and countries for safety purposes. Vaslav Nijinsky, the choreographer, was actually stuck in Hungary at this point, with his mental health rapidly deteriorating due to stress. After this point, he would never perform or choreograph professionally and publicly again because of his mental health declining. When the revolution settled down, Diaghilev tried to revive the rite once more, but soon realized that no one exactly remembered the original choreography. So, to the best of their abilities, the dancers pieced together parts that they remembered and redid others, making sure that the choreography still fit the theme of the original one. This caused the new show to have a forced look to it. The choreography did not have the authenticity, and it did not have the natural relationship or connection with the music that Nijinsky's original one did. An example of this forced artificiality is the matching jumps with the high points in the music. Many choreographers see this piece and note that the jumps are just placed whenever the music hits its high points and low points, and that in turn the choreography takes on a choppy look. The video that is being played now is a 1987 recreation of that post-October Revolution choreography. So, in a way, this is a third generation of the Rite of Spring. Now, when the rite was first performed in 1913, just 102 years earlier, on May 29th, a riot started in the theater mid-performance. After the first shrill notes of the rite sounded, audience members were already upset. The music was composed by a man named Igor Stravinsky, and its shrill and sharp and high-pitched notes heavily contrasted the usual classical ballet music that accompanied Russian ballet at the time. The audience was also upset with the piece of choreography itself. The rite is actually around 40 minutes, and the 5-minute solo clip being played is just the end portion of the show and the most famous portion. The dancers and other choreographers in the audience were shocked and distraught when they saw the forced poor technique of the dancers that were being featured in the show. Note how in this solo, the soloist's toes are almost always pointing into each other, on the ground and in the air. When she jumps, her toes are rarely stretched, and her knees are almost always facing the ground. This goes against all practices of Russian technique at the time, so others who had hammered a specific set of technique rules for dance into themselves and into their students were angered when they saw such a famous and talked-up choreography and piece of choreography not following the same rules that they had for so long. Other audience members were just very upset with the whole idea and story of the piece. The ballet is about a pagan tribe, and in the tribe, a girl is chosen, a virgin, to be sacrificed. She sacrificially dances herself to death, forced to commit suicide in order to please her tribe and the spirits that they worshipped. This theme was very controversial at the time, and it created an uproar in the theater. There are several important things to consider when analyzing this ballet. The first is Nijinsky's personal history with ballet. Nijinsky was trained by Michael Fokine, who was a prominent ballerina at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Fokine, like many others of the time, was very concerned with achieving social reform, and he strived to reform ballet too. Things common in Russian ballet during Fokine's time were pauses between each performance when the dancer or dancers would bow and receive applause. This would be similar to if every time Clara who is a character in the modern Nutcracker, did a solo, if she stopped in between every solo to get a standing ovation. Imagine how choppy the ballet would be altogether. Fokine hated this practiced idea and advocated for ballet that told a story continuously from start to end. When he brought this issue to the rule-makers of ballet, they completely ignored him. So he passed on his beliefs and his desires to his protege, Nijinsky. And that is one of the reasons why Nijinsky's piece is a step toward a change in ballet and a rebellion against other typical ballet practices. Another important aspect to consider is the setting of this piece. It's 1913 in Russia, so the leader is Tsar Nicholas II. The Fourth Duma has just been elected and is in much disagreement with the government. There is a split and collapse within the Octoberist and Nationalist parties. The Lena Goldfield massacre has just occurred, and a total of 200 workers on strike have just been shot. Strikes are popular all over the nation, and Bolshevik ideas are beginning to take root. Rasputin is also a known corrupt figure at this time. Russian society is upset with their government and looking for a change. When looking at the symbolism of this piece, one would say that the shackled solo of the sacrifice reflects the extremes that Russians have to go through to please their government and the oppression that they are facing. The Rite of Spring is basically a condensed form of the unrest during the years prior to the revolution, except shown symbolically through religion. In this way, Nijinsky's Rite of Spring reflects the ideas of the October Revolution.